Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our Talks with Walt, as we are calling our readings through the deathbed edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We turn now to a remarkable little poem in the drum tap section, As I Lay With My Head in Your Lap Camerado, which obviously is a somewhat controversial title and obviously opening line. This is poem 36 of the 43 of drum taps, so clearly again we're coming to the very end, and we will ask, why is it that this poem ends up in drum taps, and what is it that's significant? I mean, what does this have to do with, for example, the war? You'll remember, speaking of the war, that in To Thee O Cause, a poem much earlier in Leaves of Grass, Whitman said, "My book and the war are one." But to be honest, what we're going to say about this collection of lines is that it probably reminds us more about the Kalama section than any others, with that whole thing of male adhesiveness and all of that that we spoke of in earlier conversations. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at LearnStrong.net, down the left-hand side, Talks with Walt, our playlist, and everything from inscriptions, obviously through the Kalama section as well. And we've given a set of introductory comments to drum taps, and then we just finished with How Solemn. Now, our Nortons, to just give us a bit of background information here, will tell us that we are working now with some very interesting stuff in terms of editing. Watch this. This is another sequel poem of 1865-66. This piece was transferred in 1871 and 76 to a Leaves of Grass group and returned to drum taps in 1881. Improved by the exclusion of a parenthetical passage, we've seen a number of these in Leaves of Grass, which had followed line 4 that ran like this, quote, "Indeed, I am myself the real soldier. It is not he there with his bayonet, and not the red-striped artilleryman." Now, that, of course, set of lines edited out, yet still tells us something quite fascinating about this poem. Let's go ahead and pay attention to the way in which the word "I" gets used over and over again. I have said to you that Whitman has constructed Leaves of Grass as a sustained theodicy. You'll remember that we made the argument, theodicy, the question of why must there be pain and suffering in the world. Whitman's Leaves of Grass, in its attempt to try to explain that, at the end of the drum tap section, he then begins to kind of pivot, and he starts to become more self-aware of the poet that he is and wants to be. And this is the way he says it. "As I lay with my head in your lap, Camerado, the confession I made, I resume. What I said to you, and the open air, I resume. I know I am restless and make others so. I know my words are weapons full of danger, full of death. For I confront peace, security, and all the settled laws to unsettle them. I am more resolute because all have denied me than I could ever have been had all accepted me. I heed not and have never heeded either experience, cautions, majorities, nor ridicule. And the threat of what is called hell is little or nothing to me, and the lure of what is called heaven is little or nothing to me. Dear Camerado, I confess I've urged you onward with me, and still urge you, without the least idea what is our destination, or whether we shall be victorious, or utterly quelled and defeated." Now, I find this a truly remarkable set of lines. I mean, we were working with just recently How Solemn is One by One, and I said the same about that poem being included in Leaves of Grass and in drum taps. Here, I find it also quite remarkable. Speaking of How Solemn is One by One, the last two words of that poem are, "O friend." And now here, we're back to that idea with Camerado. You will remember, of course, that in Crossing Brooklyn Ferry, Part 5, he uses this "as I lay" phraseology. And you will remember that Camerado is a term that will get used a whole lot in Leaves of Grass for very particular times, and already used 5 times in Leaves of Grass. Of course, maybe the most famous is in his use in Song of the Open Road, right? Where he talks about, "I give you my hand. As I lay with my head in your lap," and of course, the potential sexual rendering of this is quite remarkable. It's noticed not on your chest, it's in your lap. You'll remember in our old Fulage that we talk about the father's lap, and that's the only other time that lap gets used in this way. "The confession I made," notice past tense, and this confession will take us back to Trickleday's confession drops. The confession I made, I resume. It's almost as if he's saying that the war interrupted something, that now he's ready to pick up, to resume. I think that makes good sense, given what Leaves of Grass and the way it's laid out looks like. What I said to you in the open air, I resume. You'll remember in Song of the Open Road, passage 4, he says, I think all heroic deeds were conceived in the open air. So in other words, freedom, open air. I know, again, this repetition of I know I am, and again, that repetition of I am, which takes us back in a biblical referencing to the book of Exodus, I am that I am. I know I am restless. This use of the word from Pioneers, O Pioneers, will be an echo for us. And make others so. In other words, this is what he says, I know great artists all do. They are by definition restless, and they are always making others somewhat restless as well. I know my words are weapons. Wow, it's pretty amazing given that we're in drum taps and we've been talking about weapons and bayonets and all of that. Full of danger, full of death. Obviously, drum taps has been full of that. And we'll kind of come back to this idea here at the end of this poem. For, in other words, because I confront peace. Now this is ironic, because what is it that he's longing for through so many of the poems of Drum Taps? Peace, a cessation to the armed conflict. And yet notice, I confront peace, security, and all the settled laws to unsettle them. In other words, iconoclastic. In other words, creeds of schools and abeyance, back to Song of Myself, passage 1. In other words, I'm ready in some ways to say, I don't care. I don't care about any of that. I am more resolute. And here comes now his theodicy. If there's anything the war, he says, taught him, it is, I have to be more resolute. Because all have denied me. Now this use of the word all is fascinating, and there's a lot that scholars have made of the fact that Whitman seems to struggle with not having the acceptance that he wishes that he could have, while at the same time being somehow pleased with the lack of acceptance, because he knows he's doing something right if lots and lots of people are upset. The way he says it is, I'm more resolute because all have denied me than I could ever have been had all accepted me. It's an interesting argument. He says, if people had just bought my Leaves of Grass by the thousands and thousands and thousands of copies, I probably wouldn't have been the poet that I ended up, and this book of poems wouldn't have been the book of poems. That's an interesting argument. He says, I heed not, and have never heeded either experience, in other words, the past, cautions, in other words, you better watch out, majorities, in other words, what everyone else thinks. Obviously, our study of Emerson's self-reliance comes to mind here. He who would be a man must be a nonconformist. I've given full lecture on that on that essay at learnstrong.net. He says, I don't care, I don't heed at all about ridicule either. Again, we're back to that line from Song of Myself, passage 1, creeds and schools and abeyance. What does he say at the end of Song of the Open Road? Mind not the cry of the teacher, leave the paper unwritten. And the threat, he says, of what is called hell. Notice, he doesn't say the threat of hell. Of what is called hell. Immediately we think of course, our Dante and the Divine Comedy, especially Inferno. And the threat of what is called hell is little or nothing to me. Whoa. I mean, this is one of the most iconoclastic lines in all of Leaves of Grass for many of the readers of Whitman's day. Whoa, you're saying you're not even worried at all about this idea of metaphysical hell? Of course, you could make the argument, Whitman's seen hell. He's been through it. Again, back to our theodicy. He's seen it. And he's been through it. The way Dante will describe it in the Divine Comedy, we've given full lectures on this as well at learnstrong.net if you want to go back and review those lectures. But it's almost as if I've been through hell. I know what that's like. I'm not worried about some threat of a metaphysical hell after death. And he says the lure of what is called heaven, notice it's not heaven, but what is called heaven, is little or nothing to me. The repetition of the two lines. In other words, in two lines, the iconoclast Whitman pretty much just takes care of all of these creeds that he's been saying he's going to have in abeyance at the beginning of Song of Myself. And then he comes back to it with Dear Comrade, or Dear Camerado, which again will take us to the last lines of the previous poem. These are very intimate poems at the end of Drum Taps. It's almost as if Whitman is going to write the collection of poems for the war that is the most necessary, where, at the very beginning, there's exuberance and hope. In the middle, there's horrific, horrific, hell-like tragedy. And in fact, reading some of those poems, as we said, is like going through Dante's hell in Inferno. All of the horrid descriptions. And then on the back end, what does it all mean? The true theodicy. And he says, Dear Camerado, I confess. This, by the way, is the first use of that phrase, confess, and we'll see it one other time in Oxtamer. It's not a popular word in Leisure. I confess, I have urged you onward. You'll remember this from Eidolons, the old urge, and from Song of Myself, passage 3, the procreant urge, this idea of his evolutionary view. I have urged you onward with me, and still urge you, without the least idea what is our destination. I got no idea where Ithaca is. Let's just go. Let's go. Obviously tipping his hat to Homer as well as obviously Virgil. Or whether we shall be victorious, now that's an interesting use of that word, given drum taps, or utterly quelled and defeated. How do you know when you've won? What an amazing question, given the conclusion of the war. Now when we get to Memories of Lincoln here in a few poems, we're going to come back to this question. What does it mean to win a war? And are wars ever actually won? Or is it more about a process rather than a product? And I think that that's our first major message here. That the real struggle is always an internal struggle. It's always the invisible struggle. That is to say, the goal is the journey and not the destination. It is always about process and never product in the end. Although, think about how longingly he asks for peace and the like in drum taps. By the way, at 2b, many have argued that there's a powerful, and dare we say it, a classic metonymy that's going on here. That is to say, the union of lovers, or camarados, will be like the union of Americans. And so there's this longing for an understanding. Let's go on this journey together. And yeah, we're going to go through some hell, but that's okay because, well, I don't even believe in the threat of hell or the promise of heaven anyway. Notice the 14 I's that are repeated, making this such a personal poem at 2b. And then at 3a, think about the whole notion of the Song of the Open Road 15. I give you my hand. This poem takes us back to how solemn is one by one, that dear friend last line with dear camerado. I like to think as well of Chaucer and Swift when I read this poem, because there's such an iconoclasm, and we're going to see even more of this spirit, this attitude here in a few moments. And I think Whitman is defiant. He's defiant to say, war will not defeat either me and my project of Leaves of Grass, or it won't defeat us as friends and lovers, and it certainly won't defeat us as a nation. Finally, at 3b, how are we going to own a poem like this? Who is your camarado? Who is the one that you feel you're closest to? And then finally, do you think that the journey is actually more important than the destination? And is it possible that your reading and study of Leaves of Grass is kind of like a journey? Thank you.